Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, hope you guys had a happy festival. Yes. So, we start off with Ind AS 20 today, a very small and a very easy standard. So, who all are there on the chat window? Good morning, Kishore. Good morning, Ginny. Who else are there? Yeah. Okay. We have some participants. Mamta, Nisha, Vignesh. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. All right. So Ind AS 20, this is a very simple standard. It deals with accounting for government grants and disclosure of government assistance. Okay. From your examination perspective, this is one of those rare standards where you have to compulsorily get entire marks, where you have to compulsorily get complete marks in respect of this particular standard. Okay. So when we talk about the standards title, accounting for government grants, that means government grants are something whose reporting we are going to study. And you have disclosure of government assistance. So in respect of government assistance, we will be understanding what are the disclosures that we need to do. So we can say that government grants reporting, including presentation, disclosures, etc. But government assistance, we will only go for the disclosures. That means the reporting of that is only in the form of disclosures. It will not be accounted per se. Okay. So with that background, let us look and understand what is the meaning of government in the first case, what is the meaning of government grant, and what is the meaning of government assistance. Because all these three things we should understand before we can move on to looking at this particular standard. Okay. So when we talk about government, we'll come back to the applicability, scope, etc. after we see the definitions. Okay. When we talk about government, it refers to government, government agencies, and similar bodies, whether local, national, or even international. So it could include something like the central government, the state government. It could also include something like an international body such as United Nations, you have UNICEF, you have UN Human Rights Commission, etc., etc. So all these also will be covered under the definition of government. Okay. So that is the meaning of government. It's not confined to only the center or the state. It even goes to the international. Okay. So that is the meaning of the government in the ordinary sense of the term. Coming to government grants and government assistance. Okay. So what is the meaning of government grants? Government grants are assistance in the form of transfer of resources to an entity. So grant is something that the government gives to the entity. It is a transfer of resources. Mind you, it does not say transfer of money. Okay, money. It's not necessary that it should be a monetary resource. The government can give land if you are setting up an undertaking in a backward area. The government can give a machinery for setting up a plant in some backward area. The government can also give money if there is a black swan event like the COVID-19. For example, if you recollect when there was the COVID-19 pandemic, what had happened was the government took upon itself for some months to pay the Provident Fund employers' contribution of certain category of employees. So this was your example of government grant in the form of transfer of money. The money was transferred to the Provident Fund accounts of those persons who were on the payrolls of the entities. And as we all know, the COVID-19, everybody had suffered because of that. So therefore, the government had stepped forward. So this was a case of a government grant. So it involves a transfer of resources. This is not restricted to money. It could be monetary, it could be non-monetary as well, in return for past or future compliance with certain conditions relating to the activities of the entity, relating to the operating activities of the entity. Obviously, when the government when the government gives a grant, it naturally expects something in return. Those something in return is basically certain conditions that need to be fulfilled. Like for example, if you are setting a unit in a backward area, the government may say that you have to provide employment, your workforce, of your total workforce, it may say that a particular percentage must be from that backward area, like probably 50%, 60%. They may give a particular threshold that at least these many members of the backward community must come and be employed in your organization so as to promote economic growth in such backward areas. So that is something like all these northeastern states which were supposed to be industrially backward. Those are the things which those were the regions where the government has given substantial grants to the entities. Okay. Relating to the operating activities of the entity. Okay, so certain conditions will be fulfilled. They exclude those forms, so exclusions, those forms of government assistance which cannot reasonably have a value placed upon them, and transactions with government which cannot be distinguished from the normal trading transactions of the entity. Okay, so in some cases the government will give you some assistance, but there cannot be any monetary value placed upon them. For example, they may give certain technical guidance, they may give certain assistance, they may give something which cannot be quantified in monetary terms, And in such cases, it will not be a particular government grant. For example, let us suppose you are in the oil and natural gas business, and you are in a location which is backward, and the government comes with an assistance by setting up a pipeline for transfer of oil and natural gas from your factory area to the regions where the oil and natural gas can be delivered. Now, this is some kind of assistance that has come to you, but you cannot place a monetary value upon that. It becomes a regular infrastructure that the government has put. You are benefited by chance. So this cannot be a specific government grant for you. Okay. And secondly, so this is the first one, cannot have a value placed upon them. And the second one is transactions with the government which cannot be distinguished from the normal trading transactions of the entity. Let us take any entity which is in the aerospace and defense sector, right? So in the aerospace and defense sector, the entities would have transactions with the Defense Research and Development Organizations, DRDOs. So DRDOs typically are directly under the Ministry of Defense, right? So you will have various orders which come upon the entity who is engaged in the manufacture and assemblies of the components that is required by the Ministry of Defense through its DRDOs. Okay, so there are multiple DRDOs across the country, right? So now these multiple DRDOs are not incorporated entities, it's the government themselves. Okay, you will also have incorporated entities in the form of say ordnance factory, for example. These are incorporated entities. So there you will, that is not your government per se, but your government is your DRDOs, and when you supply your product to the DRDOs and the DRDO pays your money to it, pays the money towards it, this is a regular trade activity. When I say trade, manufacturing is your regular area of operations. In your regular course of operations, you are providing the goods to the DRDOs. DRDOs is giving you the consideration for that. This is not a government grant. This is regular operating activity of the entity, and your customer is the government itself. So therefore, these kind of categories will not come under the meaning of government grants per se. Okay. So government grants involves transfer of resources. It could be monetary, it could be non-monetary. and it comes with typically certain conditions relating to the operating activities of the entity receiving the grant. It excludes two things. What is it? First one, transfer of certain assistance which cannot have a monetary value assigned to them, which cannot have a value placed upon them. And second one, transactions in the ordinary course of business with the government departments, which is in the normal trading activity of the entity. So these are the two things. Okay. There are other names which are used for government grants, such as subsidies, subventions, or premiums. Okay. So this is the overall framework of government grant. This is the overall framework of government grant. So when I come to the first one, key definitions. First one, when we talk about government, it could mean local bodies, okay, municipalities, panchayat, etc. State governments. It could mean central government. It could mean international government. It could mean departments. Government, departments, and agencies. You can note down along with me. Okay. So local bodies, state government, central government, international government, government department and agencies, etc. Okay. Or international bodies. Example, the United Nations. Okay. So this is your broad definition of government. Coming next, second one, you are having grants. What is grant? This is involving transfer of resources. Transfer of resources. Monetary or non-monetary. Okay. Transfer of resources from whom to whom? From government to the entity. From government to the entity. First point. Second point. Third point. Government will transfer, but in return, what does it expect? Compliance with certain conditions. Okay. Generally requiring compliance by the entity, compliance of certain conditions relating to operating activities. Okay, fair enough. Easy to remember, easy to understand. Okay, excludes. First one, what does it exclude? Items where there is no value that could be placed upon them. Okay. Forms of assistance which cannot have a value placed upon them. And second one, transactions which cannot be distinguished from the normal trading transactions of the entity. Okay. So this is the broad definition of government and government grants. Okay. So when we are talking about Ind AS 20, whose books are we going to report? Obviously, the entity's books. Who is the entity? The entity receiving the grants. So Ind AS 20 deals with reporting in the books of the entity receiving these grants. Okay. So far, is it clear? Yeah. So far, is it clear? Anila, good morning. What is the difference between government grant and government assistance? I'm coming to that only now. Okay. So grant is done. All clear, everyone, so far? Yes? All right. Okay. Coming next, what is government assistance? Government assistance of the standard. It is reporting for grants and disclosure of assistance, accounting for grants and reporting for assistance. So your assistance will not involve accounting, it is only disclosure. So that means there is something in assistance which does not make it a grant. When are you forced to not account something? Do not read the definition, very simple. Something can only be disclosed. Something can only be disclosed. You cannot account for it. कब होगा ऐसा? See, accounting के लिए क्या चाहिए अपने को? Fundamental, debit, credit, और उसके साथ I need the monetary value assigned to that. जब तक monetary value नहीं मिलेगा, हम account नहीं कर सकते. Until the monetary value is assigned to it, I cannot account, because what is the value I am going to debit and credit? So that is the reason why it is disclosure of government assistance. So now we come to government assistance. Let us understand what is the meaning of government assistance. It is an action by the government designed to provide an economic benefit specific to an entity or range of entities qualifying under certain criteria. Qualifying under certain criteria. So suppose you are an entity that is in the space and defense sector, and we are having increasing expeditions to the moon, Mars, to the international space stations, where we want to learn. We did the sun vehicle launch, Aditya launch that had happened. We also had the Chandrayaan. Okay, after one or two initial setbacks, we have done a very commendable job to land on the far side of the moon where nobody had landed, and that too in a very cost-effective manner. So all these cases are examples of entities who are operating in the space sector. Now, for these entities operating in the space sector, the pinnacle body is ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. So ISRO may probably send its team of scientists to each of these individual entities. You are having various entities who are working to support India in its space missions. So you will have entities, I can name them, but I will not. So they include certain private entities who are setting up their own rocket launch pads, right? So all these entities are, so you have entities based out of IIT Madras, you have entities based in Hyderabad, you have entities based in Bangalore, who are all engaged in some or the other manner working with the space sector. Now, obviously, space is highly precision driven, specialized sector. So it requires more and more experienced persons. So those highly specialized persons are very few, and most of them will be engaged with ISRO. So the government may have these people coming on board of these private entities as technical advisors, as board of directors. They will place one technical person from ISRO to guide the entity as to how best they can develop their capabilities so as to be successful in the space expeditions or space missions, whatever they plan. So this is and then the payments which are made to these entities is done by the government itself. The government is assisting the entities. The government is merely assisting the entities so that the capital that these entities put and is resulting in a success for the projects that they are engaging on. Otherwise, space is a sector where you have high capital and a high chance of failure. So to ensure that these entities do not fail, you will be having certain technical resources who are there with these entities as support. Now, these people come, they sit on the board, attend the meetings, they go back, they give their invaluable advice. They will look at your manufacturing facilities. They will look at what are the raw materials which you are using. They will look at your processes. They will look at whatever standard operating procedures you are doing. And then they will give certain suggestions. They will give certain requirements. They will come and interact closely with your research and development team, and they will give certain invaluable inputs. Can I monetarily measure the value of the time spent by these individuals? Answer is no. If you are paying them, it's different. But here in this case, you are not paying them. It's a matter of prestige for such companies, for such companies to receive such people's advice. And it is a matter of prestige for the government also, because the government independently cannot work on all the space missions. But the government can ensure a success of the space missions carried out by the various private sector entities. Okay. And therefore, the government puts in these people. So can the entities give a monetary value to this? Answer is no. But is it a form of assistance? Answer is yes. So what will the entity do in this case? The entity can only give a disclosure of the government assistance. It cannot account for the assistance because there is no transfer of tangible resources. There is no transfer of tangible resources. Okay. Is it clear, everyone? Yes, Hemant, is it clear now? Yeah. All right. Anybody has any doubts? Yes. All right. Fine. So, take care. So, government assistance does not include benefits provided only indirectly through action affecting general trading conditions, such as the provision of infrastructure or the imposition of trading constraints on competitors. It does not include provision of infrastructure by improvement to the general transport and communication network and the supply of improved facilities which is available on the ongoing indeterminate basis for the benefit of an entire local community. So what is it trying to say? If the government comes to a backward area, there is no proper roads. So the government the government constructs a good road, and your entity happens to be most benefited out of it because you are located in a place where the roads are in a really bad condition. Logistics would be very difficult. So, but the setting up of this road has saved time, reduced cost, and therefore you are having your government reducing your costs. And is this a government grant or a government assistance? Answer is no. It's general infrastructure development. It's not specific to you as the entity. In the first example that we saw, technical advisors coming to each entity, is it benefiting you as the entity? Answer is yes. So that becomes government assistance. Infrastructure development will not become government assistance. Okay. So that is it. Government assistance takes many forms, varying both in the nature of assistance given and the conditions which are usually attached to it. Purpose of assistance may be to encourage an entity to embark on a course of action which it would not normally have taken if the assistance was not provided. Okay. The receipt of government assistance may be significant for the preparation of the financial statement for two reasons. Firstly, if resources have been transferred, then assistance will take the form of a grant. Because when resources are transferred, you need to devise a method of accounting for the transfer. So if resources are transferred, assistances, next step will be, it will be classified as a grant. Secondly, it is desirable to give an indication of the extent to which the entity has benefited from such assistance. This facilitates comparison with prior period as well as with those of the other entities. Are we okay with government grant and government assistance? These are the three fundamental things that we need to remember for this standard. Are we okay with this? Yes. Any doubts? No doubts. So assistance we have discussed. Coming next, third one. Okay, now scope of Ind AS 20. Scope of Ind AS 20. We can categorize this into two parts. Applicability and non-applicability. Okay. Very simple. Applied for accounting and disclosure of government grants. And second one is disclosure of other forms of government assistance. Okay. So this is your applicability. We know what is government, we know what is government grant, we know what is government assistance. So this is your applicability. Now exclusions. First one. Equity investment by the government. Can anybody tell me any one entity where the government has made an investment? Yes. And what are they called? Where the government has made an investment? Yes. Very simple. So many are there. कौन सा भी एक बता दो. Yes. You can even unmute yourself and ask.
LIC of India.
Yes. So many are there. Okay, so many. All your public sector undertakings. Okay. So those are the entities where you will be having government investments. Okay. Government is your major stakeholder in those entities. Now, it could be LIC of India. It could be your Bharat Electronics Limited, Bharat Heavy Earth Movers Limited. It could be your entities like ordnance factories. Okay. These are the entities where the government has a controlling stake. In some cases, government may not have a controlling stake, but it will have a significant influence. So in all these cases, do you think the government has given a grant, or do you think the government has made an investment to generate profits out of the business? It is obviously to generate profits out of the operations, number one. And secondly, it's only the government who can undertake the activities of such magnitude in such areas. Okay. So LIC, you have to remember, you have to go back way before and look at the circumstances under which LIC was formed. Today, I have innumerable private players. But when LIC was formed, insurance was still a nascent concept in India. And LIC was the only entity in whom people had the trust, because private operators of insurance would run away with the money was a fear that was existing at the time when LIC was created. Even today, if you go to smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are people who still have irreplaceable faith in LIC as compared to private operators. It's very natural, it's very common. Okay. So therefore, LIC of India was formed because of the trust that the government could place on the people, and the people's lives, or whatever the people's lives were getting insured. Okay. So equity investment by the government was primarily to generate profit, make returns out of your investment. So this is not a government grant. Okay. Second, loans by government at market rate of interest. Loans by government at market rate of interest. You have various NBFCs that are set up by the governments. Okay, like for example, in the state of Goa, you are having EDC, Economic Development Corporation, which is 100% controlled by the government of Goa. They provide loans to women, to women entrepreneurs, to entities operating in the state of Goa, to entities who are promoting the local workforce of Goa by giving them employment. Okay. So EDC gives the loans to this, and these loans come at market rates of interest. What these entities do is they are known for the speed in processing the loan applications. Typically, a centralized bank like State Bank of India or Canara Bank or Punjab National Bank, the priorities are different. So when you look at an entity, a Goan entity that is working, EDC will have the bandwidth to speed up the application of this particular person. And in business, speed is all that matters. So in such circumstances, what are we going to do is we are going to end up having loans made available to these persons. But is it government assistance or government grant? Answer is no. Government बकायदा interest ले रही है आपसे. It is taking interest at market rates. So government is just facilitating the speed for you, but everything else the government is taking. It will take processing charges. It will take market rate of interest. It will penalize you if you don't pay the interest. Everything is just like a bank. So in this case, you cannot call it as a government grant. It's a regular trading transaction that is happening between the government and the local entity that has been set up. Okay. Next. Third one. Okay. Government assistance in the form of direct tax exemptions or holidays. Direct tax exemptions or holidays. Yes. An entity is set up in the state of Assam. Okay, in Assam, there is a very, very remote area called Tinsukia. Okay, so this is public information, so I don't have any hesitation in giving the entity's name. So Hindustan Unilever Limited has its plant situated in the far northeastern region of Tinsukia. To give you the idea of the terrain, the capital of Assam, Dispur, is situated in a city called Guwahati. Guwahati say it is about 10 to 12 hours by train from Guwahati to Tinsukia, northeasternmost end of India. Okay. वहां पे there is no industrial development, there is no absolutely any form of industry that has come up. There, Hindustan Unilever Limited has set up its facility of FMCG products where it deals in where it deals in manufacturing and packaging of toothpastes and toothpaste, all these kind of FMCG products. Okay. Now, in such situations, since the entity has taken a risk, okay, by setting up its unit there, so it's a unit where it's a place where there is frequent labor strikes, where the surrounding conditions are not conducive. You can possibly be subjected to certain inconvenience by the local people there. Okay, so there could be certain even bordering on attacks or something on the vehicles that you are transporting. In spite of all this, Unilever has set up its unit there. Why? Because government has given tax exemptions. Government comes out with tax exemptions because they want to develop that area. They want to develop that area so that all these antisocial activities will stop. Why do we have antisocial activities? Because of lack of development, lack of monetary resources. So when money is available through normal economic activities, why will a person engage in antisocial activities, right? So therefore, to promote these kind of positive manners of generating income, it has given tax subsidies. You have those sections. Can anybody recollect any such section? Yes, you have section 80IA, 80IB, 80IC, 80ID, 80IE of the Income Tax Act, where there is a tax exemption for 10 years, 15 years in respect of profit generated by that entity, which is situated in the industrially backward area, which is located in the industrially backward area. You have a profit exemption of 10 years. You have a profit exemption of 15 years. These are notified areas for the purposes of income tax exemptions. Now, these particular tax holidays are not covered under Ind AS 20. They are covered under Ind AS 12 specifically. They will not be covered here. And therefore, this is excluded from Ind AS 20. Okay, so any tax holidays, tax exemptions pertaining to direct taxes is excluded. Okay, it specifically mentions profits or incomes which are related to determination of taxable profit or loss. Okay, so it does not cover GST benefits. Okay, so what happens is, in these places, in the northeastern place, for example, any amount of GST that is paid in cash after setting off of the input, what you pay in cash is given back by the government, So the CGST is given by the central government. The SGST that you pay is given by the state government. You get a refund of the taxes which you have paid in cash, which is basically output minus input that you are setting off. Are we okay? So this is not in any manner related to your taxable profit or loss. So probably these could get covered under government grants. Is it okay? So that is your exclusions. Direct tax related exemptions, holidays are excluded. And fourth one is grants related to biological assets. What is a biological asset? We had discussed when we did inventory. Grants related to biological assets. Where is this covered? This is covered under Ind AS 41. Biological assets except bearer plants. Except bearer plants. Why? Bearer plants are covered under Ind AS 16. So this is under Ind AS 16. Covered under Ind AS 16 and Ind AS 20. Okay. So grants related to biological assets are covered under Ind AS 41, excluding bearer plant related grants that will be covered under Ind AS 20. Are we okay with this? Yes. So far, anybody has any doubts about definitions, scope, applicability, non-applicability? Everything is clear? Yes. Any doubts? No doubts? All clear. Ginny has confirmed. Hemant, is it okay? Pooja has joined. Is it okay? Yeah. Who else
Yes.
is all clear? ठीक है, समझ में आ गया. All right, fine. Mamta, Nisha, all clear. Samir, Stephen, Usha, Vignesh, all clear. All right. Anila has also confirmed. Very good. Okay, fine. So that takes care of the very preliminary part of your discussions. Okay. All right, fine. Now let us move on to the next one. Okay. Now we come to the proper accounting. Now we come to the proper accounting per se of Ind AS 20. Okay. Now, initial recognition. Initial recognition. When should we actually recognize my grant? Should I recognize? Okay, this is something that you can answer. Today, Abrakesh is not there. Okay. You can tell me when should you recognize? Okay. Should I recognize the grant when I have a reasonable assurance that I'll fulfill the conditions? Or should I recognize the grant only after I receive it? Yes?
I receive it.
Okay. When you receive it. Any other answers, anyone?
Same,
Come
sir, when we receive it.
when you receive it. Okay. Who else? Everybody agrees with, I think Jeannie had answered, right? And Mamta or who else? Pooja, who else had answered? I'm not sure who answered. Okay.
Anila, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody else, Anila. Okay. So anybody else concurs with these people, or anybody has anything to differ with these from these people, from both of their answers? Okay. So that's what. So we are coming from a very conservative background. We are coming from a very conservative background. See, the problem that all of us, including myself, before we started the Ind AS transition was, how can I actually recognize an income until there is a certainty in receiving it? So in the case of a government grant, our immediate response is, we will recognize only when we receive it. That is our inbuilt response. But the standard tells no. You can recognize the government grant as receivable if you are reasonably confident that you will fulfill the conditions attached to it. It does not even tell that you have to comply the conditions. It only says that if you are confident you will fulfill the conditions attached to a grant, you recognize the grant. There could be certain activities which you have to do to become eligible for the grant. For example, there is a scheme from the government which is going on. Uske liye you have to fill an application form before a deadline. So if the reporting date is 31st March and the deadline for filling that application form also is 31st March, 31st March के बाद आप नहीं भर सकते. So if by 31st March you have filled the form, you are eligible to recognize the grant receivable even though you have not received it. Acha, by 31st March you have not filled the form. In that case, you cannot recognize the grant receivable because you have not even made yourself eligible for getting the grant. But one of the conditions you have to remember is, I have filled the form. Form में there were 5 to 6 conditions. I am reasonably confident I will fulfill those conditions attached and I will get the grant. इतना आपको यकीन है अपने आप पे, if you are having so much faith and belief in yourself, you can go ahead and recognize the grant receivable. So the government grant receivable will appear in your balance sheet as an asset. It's not mandatory for you to have the grant received in your bank to trigger the accounting of the government grant. Are we okay? And remember, have you studied Ind AS 115? Have you studied Ind AS 115? Yes. Revenue standard? Yes. तो रेवेन्यू स्टैंडर्ड जब आपने पढ़ा था, there also you would have studied something known as variable consideration, where you would have bonus if you are meeting the deadlines or if you are able to deliver the product within the deadlines, product or service. So if you are reasonably confident of delivering within the deadline, the variable consideration, which is in the form of incentive or bonus promised to you, you can go ahead and recognize it as a part of the consideration. Are you able to follow? See, AS9 made you to recognize the bonus only when you got it, because we were conservative. But Ind AS 115 क्या बोलता है? Don't be conservative, be realistic. Your prudence should be prudent in its applicability. Don't go overboard with prudence. Okay. इतना prudent मत रहो that you end up understating your profitability, that you end up overstating your liabilities, that you end up understating your assets. Exercise prudence with prudence. Okay. Prudence is the noun, the prudence concept that we studied. The second prudence is exercise it cautiously. Exercise prudence with prudence. Okay, that is what Ind AS regime tells us. Okay, so same thing applies in government grants also. You can recognize the grant as receivable even if you have only met the conditions. Even if you have only met the conditions, even if you are confident of meeting the conditions. Recognize कर सकते हो. Okay. Recognize कर सकते हो. So the onus on this case, in this case, is upon whom? The onus is on the entity to prove that it is confident of meeting, which makes it all the more difficult for auditors, because now the auditors will look at a grant receivable in their in the balance sheet which is presented to them for the audit, and they will have to question the entity's reasoning behind recognizing the grant receivable. AS regime mein it was not happening. AS regime we never had a government grant receivable. We would recognize it only when the grant would actually fructify, when you would have the grant in your accounts, even in your bank account. तब तक तो हम account ही नहीं करते थे, right? So that is why we are going to treat it as a realistic manner of accounting, a realistic manner of accounting. Okay, so now initial
I
recognition.
have a question.
Yes, please.
सर ये कोई जरूरी तो नहीं है कि हमने अपना कंडीशन फुलफिल किया, लेकिन कोई सामने से एक्सेप्टेंस हो या नहीं हो, ये तो अदर पे डिपेंड करता है.
जी हाँ.
तो इसमें हम कैसे अपने को मान ले कि हाँ मेरा कंडीशन फुलफिल है, जब तक सामने से अप्रूवल नहीं आ जाए या कुछ ऐसा ग्रांट मिल ना जाए.
तो आप अनिला और कौन है योर नेम?
ममता सर.
ममता है. अच्छा ठीक है, तो आप ऐसे समझ लीजिए कि सामने एक्सेप्टेंस का कोई कंडीशन नहीं है. सो दैट इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग कि आप ये जो क्लॉज है इसको बहुत बारीकी से आपको देखना पड़ेगा. The grant is given to you if you fulfill the conditions. सामने से और कोई तरीके का एनालिसिस नहीं है गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से. सो देयर आर सर्टेन, सो यू आर द एंटिटी, यहां पे है गवर्नमेंट और यहां पे दिस इज योर एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म. आपने एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म भर दिया, आपको लगता है आप कंडीशंस फुलफिल करेंगे. ये दो ही चीजें देखनी है. अगर आपके कंडीशन में लिखा है, अगर ग्रांट के कंडीशन में लिखा है गवर्नमेंट विल अवॉर्ड द ग्रांट टू दोज इट डीम्स फिट, अगर गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस में लिखा है तब तो आप डेफिनेटली रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं कर सकोगे. बट इफ यू हैव अ ग्रांट वेयर ओनली फुलफिलिंग द कंडीशन इज इनफ फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू गिव यू द ग्रांट. जैसे कि कोविड के टाइम पे आपको आपके एम्प्लॉइज के प्रोविडेंट फंड में पैसे आ जाते थे. व्हाई? बिकॉज आप कोविड से अफेक्टेड थे, आपके पास वो एम्प्लॉइज थे जिनका सैलरी थ्रेशोल्ड से कम था. यू मेट द क्राइटेरिया फॉर रिसीविंग द मॉनेटरी ट्रांसफर. तो आपको आइडियली यू वुड हैव द ऑप्शन ऑफ रिकॉग्नाइजिंग दैट ग्रांट, बिकॉज उसमें कंडीशन क्या था? यू नीड टू हैव एम्प्लॉइज बिलो अ पर्टिकुलर थ्रेशोल्ड. अगर वो कंडीशन फुलफिल हो गया, गवर्नमेंट विल डेफिनेटली गिव द ग्रांट टू यू, बिकॉज दैट वाज द कंडीशन ऑफ द ग्रांट. आपके पास सिर्फ वो एम्प्लॉयज होने चाहिए थे आपके पेरोल पे, वो थे, हाँ जी, तो आप गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट रिसीवेबल रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते थे, यू कुड रिकॉग्नाइज द गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट रिसीवेबल, भले ही गवर्नमेंट कभी भी पैसा दे, it doesn't matter. But suppose the condition was such that government will look at the employees who are forming part of your employee payroll list, and then after verification by the appropriate committee or so, the grants would be disbursed. अगर ऐसा कोई कंडीशन होता तब आप गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट रिसीवेबल नहीं रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते थे, बिकॉज इट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द एक्सेप्टेंस बाय द गवर्नमेंट। अब समझ में आ गया? यस, इज इट ओके?
ओके सर।
हाँ, तो मेन क्राइटेरिया इज देयर शुड बी नो एम्बिग्युइटी और नो कंफ्यूजन इन द टर्म्स ऑफ द ग्रांट। ग्रांट साफ साफ बताना चाहिए कि आप सिर्फ कंडीशन फुलफिल कर लो, हम आपको ग्रांट दे देंगे, तब तो कोई देयर इज नो सेकंड थॉट। ओके, आप बिल्कुल ग्रांट रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। ओके, सो इनिशियल रिकॉग्निशन, record the grant when it becomes receivable, provided there is a reasonable assurance that the conditions attached to the grant will be fulfilled. The conditions attached to the grant will be fulfilled. Entity need not wait for the actual receipt or compliance of conditions or compliance of conditions. जैसे मान लीजिए, another example, you are setting up your factory in a backward area. Government said it will give you 50 lakh rupees. अच्छा, to get 50 lakh, you had to fill an application form by 31st March, and by 30th June, you should have the occupancy certificate for the factory that you have constructed. तो टाइमलाइन कुछ ऐसा दिखेगा आपको। ओके, 31st मार्च ये है एप्लीकेशन का डेडलाइन, 30th जून ऑक्यूपेंसी ऑफ फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग। ओके, ऑक्यूपेंसी ऑफ फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग। सो एज ऑन 31st मार्च आपने एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म भर दिया। वाई आर यू गोइंग टू फिल द एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म? आपको शायद यकीन होगा कि 30th जून तक मेरा फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग बन के तैयार हो जाएगा। 31st मार्च को तो वो रेडी था भी नहीं, बट आपको मालूम है कि नेक्स्ट 3 मंथ्स में काम करवा के आई कैन सेट अप द फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग। You cannot file the application on 30th of June because deadline to 31st March है. So if you are reasonably confident to get this, then you can recognize a grant receivable on 31st March itself. But अगर आप 30th June के बारे में sure नहीं हो, even if you have filed the application form, you cannot recognize the grant. So as an auditor, what is your responsibility? On 31st March, if the government grant is receivable, you will have to understand the reasoning behind treating it as receivable and you will also have to go behind and look at the factory ki bhai, is it actually received or not? Because the standard only tells you can treat it as a change in estimate in the future. You can treat this as a change in estimate in the future, and therefore any impact, ये जो reversal है 31st March, you can say, sir, I thought I'll get the grant, but in the next year I did not get because I did not fulfill the condition. It was an estimate that I made, so now that estimate is reversed, so I will reverse this entry. It's not so simple. The auditor should question, evaluate, and then certify the financial statements only after a careful assessment of the accounting estimates that are made in respect of this grant, treating it as a receivable. Is it okay? Yes. So that is how the overall situation pans out. Okay. Now, coming to the reporting. Initial recognition ho gaya. Now, coming to the reporting. Okay. How do we go about it? Okay, let us look at a couple of illustrations before we move on to the next one. Okay, all right. So recognition of government grant only when there is a reasonable assurance that दो चीजें होनी चाहिए. Entity will comply with the conditions attached to the grant and grant will be received. So it needs a reasonable assurance of this and this. ये जब दो चीजें होगी, then you can recognize the grant receivable. Okay, something we have discussed at length. Okay, now let us look at some of these very simple illustrations. Government gives a grant of 10 lakh for past research of H1N1 vaccine to A Pharmaceuticals Limited. There is no condition attached to the grant. How will this grant be recognized in the books of A Pharmaceuticals Limited? Bolo. H1N1 is a vaccine that was developed after long research. Okay. So the government said that, ठीक है, आपने research किया, you will get 10 lakh of grant, and it gives 10 lakhs of grant. What are you going to do with this grant? You don't need reporting knowledge for this. It's a very simple question. पैसा बैंक में आ गया 10 लाख रुपए.
Account as income in P&L, sir.
You will take it as your income in the P&L. You will take it because for developing the vaccine, you have already spent the cost in the past. You have already spent the cost in the past. You are now getting a compensation for what you have already spent. So since those expenses are gone in the P&L, this grant also will be immediately recognized in the P&L. How this government grant will be recognized? Immediately in the statement of profit and loss. Immediately in the statement of profit and loss. Okay? Very simple. Bank account debit to income from government grants, 10 lakh rupees. Okay. Let us look at the next one. Government gives a grant of 10 lakh for research and development of H1 vaccine to A Pharmaceuticals Limited, even though similar vaccines are available but are expensive. The entity has to ensure by developing a manufacturing process over a period of 2 years that the costs come down by at least 40%. Okay. Examine how this government grant should be recognized, assuming that A Pharmaceuticals has reasonable assurance that the conditions attached to the grant will be complied with. Okay, you have seen the answer, but anyways, just help me out with it. Is this related to something in the past or is this related to something that will happen in the future?
Future, sir.
Future. So, when can I recognize the grant?
When there is a reasonable assurance.
Okay. In this case, is the grant received or to be received?
To be received.
To be received.
The grant is already received.
Grant is already received. भाई पैसा मिल चुका है. The government gives a grant of 10 lakhs to A Pharmaceuticals Limited. मतलब A Pharmaceuticals has received the grant. But can it book income from this grant? Think and answer. This is not related to past. This is related to the future. Condition क्या है? In the next 2 years, a vaccine should be developed with a cost reduction of 40%. है कि नहीं? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, in the first case, it is bank account debit to P&L. Okay. Now, in this case, I got the money 10 lakhs. Okay. I just write the number so there is no confusion. Okay. 10. Now, bank account debit to what am I going to credit? Can I credit
Deferred income.
Yes. Can I credit the P&L immediately? Answer is no, because this is a grant over the next 2 years with a condition fulfillment requirement. So I will take it as deferred income. Is everybody following? Yes. Is everybody following this? Ginny, Anila, Anu, Mamta,
Yes, sir.
all following?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Hemant. Who else is there? Stephen, Vignesh, all clear? Samir, Usha, Pooja, सब ठीक है? Nisha, yes. Kishore,
Yes, sir.
all clear. Okay. Now, this deferred income must be credited to P&L. वो कहाँ जाएगा? That we will see later. Now, this should be credited to the P&L. How will I credit it? How will I credit it? On a systematic basis, because they are not given the basis, they are not given the expenditure that they are going to probably incur over the next 2 years. So when nothing is given, we will also have to give an answer in that fashion only. We will have to say that the grant will be immediately recognized as deferred income and it will be charged to the profit. It will be recognized as income in the profit and loss on a systematic basis over the next 2 years. On a systematic basis means by you only tell what is the systematic basis, because your question has not given me that particular input. You can take it in the ratio of the expected cost of development of that vaccine, or you can just do it as an equal amortization over the next 2 years, 5 lakh rupees. Is it okay? Yes. So illustration 1, illustration 2. Okay. Now, illustration 3. A village of artisans. Artisans means people who are having skill or who are artists. Okay. Got devastated because of an earthquake. Earthquake has already happened. A Limited was operating in that district and was providing employment to the artisans. The government gave a grant of 10 lakhs to A Limited. Grant received or to be received? Already received. Government gave a grant. So grant to paisa aa chuka hai to A Limited, so that 100 artisans are rehabilitated over a period of 3 years. So that 100 artisans are rehabilitated over a period of 3 years. Okay. The government releases 2 lakhs. Examine how this government grant will be recognized. How this government grant will be recognized. Yes. What do you think? Answer तो दिख रहा है, but फिर भी. Is the grant received?
Yes, sir. Grant is already received.
Is it related to past grant received hai Hemant? The government gave a grant of 10 lakh to A Limited. So grant is received. Okay. Is it related to fulfillment of past conditions or future conditions?
Future condition.
What are my future conditions? There is only one: rehabilitation of 100 artisans over a period of 3 years. Rehabilitation over 3 years. So in the next, it's the same, Hemant. Gave and release is the same. Okay, gave and release is the same. Okay. So this one, let me see what is this government releases 2 lakhs. Let us look at this implication separately. Okay. Now examine how this government grant be recognized. Okay.
We will recognize it as deferred income.
Recognize it as deferred income. And over the next 3 years, rehabilitation means I will be helping them to set up their handlooms or their units, whatever is there. I will help to rebuild their houses. I will ensure that the families of these artisans of these 100 artisans over the next 3 years are set up, and we give them the support that they want so that they will be able to commence their works as soon as possible. So that is something that we are committed to do. So when we say the government gave a grant and the government releases 2 lakhs, now here there is an ambiguity. So Hemant also raised a valid point. Sir, what is the difference between gave and release in this particular question? So in this case, probably the intention is gave a grant could mean sanction of the grant, 10 lakh rupees. Out of 10 lakh, 2 lakh has been paid. 8 lakh is definitely going to be paid by the government, but over a 3-year tenure. So when I say gave, for the purpose of this question, this could mean a sanction. So you are having a sanction for 10 lakhs, out of which government has released. So government has paid. So you will be having, in this case, bank account debit to government grant receivable 8 to deferred grant income 10. This is one way of regarding it, because 10 is different, 2 is different. We can take 2 as a part of 10. Okay. Or there could be some other interpretations who will say that the government gives 10 lakh to the entity and the government by itself is paying 2 lakh for rehabilitation. Okay. So government 10 lakh is different, 2 lakh is different. 2 lakh goes for rehabilitation by the government. 10 lakh will be paid to the entity who does the rehabilitation by itself. So it depends how you are going to interpret, but we need not get into such kind of interpretations right now. As of now, what is important is you treat it as a deferred government grant and recognize it in the profit and loss as an income over the next 3 years, okay. And any contingent liability is something that you will have to disclose it in line with Ind AS 37. Is it okay? So fairly simple. There is no doubt in that. Okay. Now, forgivable loan. Government has given a loan. Government has. What is the difference between gave and release? Okay. So I have explained that. Okay. What is forgivable loan? Government has given a loan to you, and then probably something like COVID-19 happened, and the government came out with a loan forgiving scheme, where it said that these many people who have loan below 5 lakhs, that is all waived off by the government. The government is taking the hit. This is also becoming a government grant. So if you are meeting the condition of fulfilling the forgiveness of the loan, then you are well within your limits to recognize that as a government grant. Is it okay? So you will recognize a forgivable loan is treated as a grant when there is reasonable assurance that the entity will meet the terms for forgiveness of the loan. Fairly simple, no deviation from what we have been studying so far. Okay. The next one is probably the most important part that you are going to study in government grant. Have you studied Ind AS 109? Financial instruments?
No, sir.
No, not yet. Okay. अभी तक नहीं पढ़ा है. ठीक है. So this is a combination of Ind AS 109 and government grant. Okay. So loans at less than the market rate of interest. See, government, you are setting up a unit, let us assume, in a backward area. You need financing for that. You go to the government and tell, look, you want me to set up a unit in the backward areas of, let us assume, Chhattisgarh, which is an Naxalite belt. Okay. You want to give some economic development there. So you want to set up an industry there. Okay. You want to set up a factory. You want to, provide economic growth to the region. So you set up there, but you go to the government and tell, look, you are having intention to economically develop. But my factory that I'm going to set up is having an investment of 10 crore rupees. Now 10 crore rupees considering the volatility of the surroundings, considering the people who are involved, the unrest that is probably there, I am not sure how many days will I be able to successfully operate, or how much profits I can generate, and what will be the situation if I am not able to operate even one day and I abandon the entire project. Then my 10 crores will go down the drain. If I take a loan from market rate, from the banks, I will have to pay around 11 to 12% rate of interest. So either you give me the building, you give me funds to construct the building, or you see how best you can help me. So the government comes out, okay, you need 10 crores, fine. You put in 2 crores, that will be your margin money, because it's a project that you have to also put in your money. So you put in 2 crores. I will give you 8 crores at 3% rate of interest. Market rate is 12. He is getting it at 3% rate of interest. So this becomes a concessional loan. This becomes a concessional loan. Is it okay? Yes. कंसेशन हुआ कि नहीं, कहां 12 कहां 3, 9% का सीधा सीधा कंसेशन. ओके, नाउ if it is regular accounting standard, how would you recognize this? बोलो. Books of entity. You would have the loan as 8 crores. Yes or no? Bolo?
Yes, sir.
8 crores. And then every year you would have interest at 3%. Finance cost debit. If it's paid every year, then finance cost debit to bank 8 crores into 3%. So that would be how much?
24 lakh.
24 lakhs. So this would go on, and in the end you would repay 8 crores and finish it. Okay, ये तो होता ही था. This is prior to Ind AS. Now, what does the standard tell? Which standard? Ind AS 109. Ind AS 109 tells us that, look, there are no free lunches in this place. Okay, in this world, in this business, there are no free lunches. If the government is giving you an interest-free loan, or a concessional rate of interest loan, in this case a 9% concession, then there is something else that the government must be providing. Which is hidden. So we need to find out what is hidden. So typically in financial instrument terms, in terms of Ind AS 109, these are off-market transactions. Market rate is 12. You are giving the loan at 3%. These are what we call as off-market transactions. So now what we have to do is, any liability, any financial liabilities, initial recognition should happen at fair value. This is what Ind AS 109 tells us. And what is fair value? The present value of all future cash flows discounted using the market rate of interest. Something which we call as effective interest rate. Okay. So we will look at illustration 4. And from there, let us try to understand what is the implication of Ind AS 109 and Ind AS 20 put together. So this is a joint application of both the standards. So come to illustration 4. A Limited received from the government a loan of 50 lakhs at 5% payable after 5 years in a bullet payment. Bullet payment means a single shot payment at the end of the tenure. The prevailing market rate of interest is 12%. So 12% ka loan is given at 5%. Interest is payable regularly at the end of each year. Interest is payable regularly at the end of each year. Calculate the amount of government grant and pass the necessary journal entry, and also examine how the grant shall be recognized. Examine how the grant shall be recognized. Okay. So now let us understand. Okay. What is the fair value of the loan? What is the fair value of the loan? That is something that we need to calculate. So what Ind AS 109 tells us is the present value of all future cash flows discounted at the market rate of interest, that becomes the present value, the fair value of the loan. Okay. So what is your outflow? 50 lakh into 5% every year, 2 lakh 50, 2 lakh 50, 2 lakh 50 is something which you are going to incur as an outflow. Okay. So amount, so basically your present value, or what we say, fair value of loan is equal to, see, every year 2,50,000, yes or no, into 5 years, na? So present value annuity factor 12% for 5 years plus a single shot bullet repayment at the end of 5th year into present value factor 12% 5th year. Are we okay with this, everyone? Yes. Did you understand?
Sir,
Did you understand this working?
sir, I have a doubt.
Tell me, bolo.
Sir, जैसे आपने 5% you calculated on that 50 lakh.
Yes.
Don't we consider calculation of interest on a closing balance each year?
But if you look at the terms, what is it saying? There will be a single bullet payment at the end. Every year interest will be paid. 5th year में 50 lakh will be paid. So you will pay interest 2 lakh 50. तो first year में क्या होगा? मैंने लोन लिया 50 lakhs, उस पे interest बैठा 2 lakh 50. I pay 2 lakh 50, so the loan amount is 50 lakhs. Then next year again 250, I pay 250, so loan amount will remain 50 lakhs. At the end, I will pay a single shot payment of 50 lakhs. We call that as a bullet payment. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
उसको बोलते हैं बुलेट. I came to know your question. यहाँ पे EMI नहीं, you're talking in terms of EMIs, right?
Yes, sir.
EMI नहीं है यहाँ पे, because what they have said is a bullet payment. EMI होता, then it would be done in the manner that you are suggesting. Okay. If it required monthly repayment, then we would have to prepare the entire table to find out the closing balance at the end of each year, and then we would calculate the fair value, interest and the present value on those amounts. Uska calculation hai, you have that separate calculation also, which is possible. Is it okay? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hemant, Jeannie, did you follow? This is Jeannie or Mamta? Or Anila, who was there on the call? All clear? Okay. Okay. ठीक है, fine. So that takes care of the question. Are you able to understand the calculation part? What is the amount at the end of 5 years? 50 lakhs you will pay him back. 50 lakhs you will repay. Okay. So what is present value of 12% at the end of 5 years? Can somebody tell me present value annuity factor? Yes. Do you know how to calculate? You should be knowing from capital budgeting and all. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
बोलिए.
it is 9,01,194 for 2,50,000 present value annuity factor.
एन्युटी फैक्टर. अच्छा, आपने मल्टीप्लाई करके ही बता दिया.
Yes, sir.
So your annuity factor is 3.605. Please correct me if I'm wrong. कितना
Correct.
कहा आपने?
9,01,194.
ठीक है, छुट्टा माफ कर सकते हो. If I take it as 3.605, I get 901,250. I stuck to 3 decimals, but Jeannie has given maybe up to 4 or 5 decimals. So her answer is more accurate. Okay. But ठीक है, if nothing is given, you can stick to 3 decimals. That's fine. And at the end, this is 0.567. Okay. So ये कितना होगा? 50 lakhs into 0.567, 28 lakhs.
37,134.
ठीक है, उसमें भी 1-2 हजार का फर्क है. That's due to rounding off. You guys would have taken the whole decimals. I'm okay with that gap. Okay, 37 lakh 38, 37 lakh 37. Okay, whatever it is. Is it okay? Yes. Everyone, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hemant, is it okay? Stephen, Usha, Vignesh, Samir, Pooja, ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
So now let us look at the journal entry. Okay. यार बैंक में तो पैसा आ गया, बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट. कितना पैसा आएगा? The grant amount is how, the loan amount is how much?
50 lakhs.
So bank में the money that you would have received is 50 lakhs. But can I recognize the loan at 50 lakhs? Answer is no. Because financial instruments requires us to recognize the loan initially at fair value. Fair value is this 37 lakh 36,000 and change. Okay. So to loan, that is your financial liability. 37 lakh 36,250. So are the debits and credits matching? Answer is no, they are not. So what is the difference?
Twelve lakh 63,750.
That's right. 12 lakh 63,750. What is this 12 lakh 63,750?
Deferred income.
Deferred income. This is the grant that the government has given to you. This is the grant that the government has given to you. What is this grant? This is essentially the interest which it is not collecting from you. ये उसका prorated value है. Okay, so to deferred income, or what we can call it is, yeah, take it as deferred income. Is it okay? Yes. Why deferred income? Over a tenure of 5 years. Over a tenure of 5 years. Are we okay with this? Yes. Boys and girls. Jeannie has confirmed.
Yes, sir.
Mamta ठीक है. Anila has confirmed. Yes. Okay. Who is DP? I don't know. Okay. Clear. Anu Sharma. Mamta ठीक है. Pooja ठीक है. Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay, fine. So now the question is, this loan, which is a financial liability, this will be calculated using amortization principles, which is specified in Ind AS 109. So this goes under Ind AS 109. What Ind AS 109 tells us? Okay, you have a financial liability of 37 lakhs. So 37 lakh plus 12% for the first year interest minus 2 lakh 50 will be your closing balance. That closing balance will be opening for second year plus 12% minus 2 lakh 50 will be closing balance for second year. Opening balance for third year plus 12% minus 250. So ऐसे करते करते 37 lakh will reach 50 lakhs because ultimately I have discounted using 12% ना. मैंने भाई 12% ही लिया है ना considering the repayment. So ultimately 37 lakh will move to 50 lakhs by the end of fifth year. And end of fifth year I will repay that 50 lakh rupees. So that accounting is happening on the basis of Ind AS 109. But this 12 lakh 63, this is where Ind AS 20 is applicable. This is where Ind AS 20 is applicable. Ordinarily, I would have shown you Ind AS 109 movement. आज मैं वो दिखाऊंगा, then we will end up losing time for Ind AS 20. Okay, so 12 lakh 63,750 is my deferred income. Depending on the nature of the grant, I will either take it to the P&L immediately or I will recognize it as an asset related grant, uska treatment alag hai, or I will defer it over the tenure of the loan if it is related to future incomes. Is it okay? कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, but it all depends on what is the nature of your grant. It all depends on what is the nature of your grant. Are we okay with this? Yes. Any doubts so far? Anybody has any doubts? No doubts? Crystal clear. Very nice. Okay. So let us come to illustration 4 ho gaya. I will take you to illustration 5 immediately because it is a continuation of illustration 4. Continuing with the facts, how will the grant be recognized assuming the loan is an immediate relief measure to rescue the enterprise? Immediate relief. Immediate relief. Okay. So how will I treat it if it is an immediate relief? Bolo?
Entire 12 lakh 63,750 will go to PNL immediately.
Yes, immediately. So option 1, 12 lakh 63,000 will straight away go and hit the profit and loss account as income because it is something related to event which has already happened. तो अभी urgently पैसों की जरूरत है, तो 12.64 lakhs will be taken to the P&L immediately as income. So that is the first case. Okay. The loan is a subsidy for staff training expenses incurred equally for a period of 4 years. So,
Recognized over a period of 4 years.
amortized over a period of 4 years. Absolutely right. And if the loan is to finance a depreciable asset, this is something. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
It will go in same proportion as depreciation we charge on the asset.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So we have two different accounting treatments, but dono ka impact is the same as what Pooja just now mentioned. It will impact my depreciation charge in the ratio of the depreciation that we are going to incur. Okay. So is it clear, everyone? Yes. Illustration 4 and illustration 5. BP.
Clear, sir.
Hemant clear, Nisha, Jeannie, Vignesh, all clear. Stephen, Samir, 3 boys are not answering. Okay, fine. Kishore, is it clear? Yes. All right. All clear, I hope. Okay, perfect. All right. Nisha, is it clear? Mamta, to she was
The third point is not clear for me.
Third part, I will come to you. I will discuss depreciable assets just now after this illustration. Okay, so if third part is a problem, I am not worried. First two parts are cleared, I am happy. Okay, so illustration 5 is done. Okay, all right. Third part, I will discuss right now. Okay, All right, fine. Now, let us understand the type of grants which can come. Okay. So this is basically taking care of your third case. Okay. So now types of grant. We are now moving to the next step. How do I account the various types of grant? Okay. So grants can broadly be divided into two types. It is a transfer of resources. So it could be monetary grant or it could be non-monetary grant. Okay. Non-monetary grant. And when I'm talking about types of grant, I will specifically mean grant related to assets. Grants related to assets. Because the other grant, the second type of grant is any other residual grant other than grants related to assets. Okay. So when I talk about monetary grant related to assets, government gives reimbursement for asset cost incurred. Government gives reimbursement for asset cost incurred. You have set up an asset, I will pay partially for that asset which you have set up. Non-monetary grant क्या होता है? Non-monetary grant means will you get money? Answer is no. Will you get money? Answer is no. But what are you going to get? You are going to get asset itself. You are going to get asset itself. Is it okay? Yes. Government gives asset directly to the entity at concessional or free price. Are we clear with this? Yes, monetary and non-monetary. Are we clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So now, how am I going to account for this? First one, monetary asset. Suppose I have purchased an asset worth 300 rupees. Okay. For which government is giving me 200 rupees. I have purchased an asset worth 300 for which government is giving me 200. So my outflow is going to be only 100 rupees. Okay. So property, plant and equipment debit. What am I going to debit? You tell me. Should I debit 300 or should I debit 100?
300.
300.
Pooja gave the answer. I think Anu also gave. Hemant is saying 100. What about Mamta?
300, sir.
300. 200 is from government grant. 100 is own contribution. Okay. DP is saying 300. So we have a healthy mixture of 300 and 100 with the tendency moving towards 300. अच्छा. हम क्या करेंगे? What does the standard permit? Standard permits both. Standard permits both. So what some people will say is, sir, property, plant and equipment debit 300 to bank. This is my contribution 100 to deferred income 200. Okay. To deferred income 200. Are we okay with this? Yes.
Yes, sir.
आप ऐसे कर सकते हो. To deferred income, this is basically the government grant funding that you have received. So what am I going to do? Suppose the life is 5 years and I take a straight line depreciation. Depreciation of PPE is equal to 300 divided by 5. So this is equal to 60 per annum. And correspondingly, जो 200 का deferred income है, deferred income is equal to over 5 years, I will take income. So net expense in the P&L will be 20. Are we okay with this? Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Pooja has confirmed. Everyone?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. और Hemant's answer. Hemant said, sir, your asset is worth only 100 rupees. 200 तो आपको सरकार से मिला, आपने 100 डाले, तो आपका asset का value is actually 100. I'm okay with that. So entry will be PPE debit to bank 100. Yes. Depreciation is equal to 100 divided by 5, 20 per annum. Is this the same? Yes. Yes or no? तो जो फाइनल आंसर है, the net impact in your P&L of 20 rupees per annum will be the same, regardless of whether you show it on a gross basis or whether you show it on a net basis. Is everyone convinced? Mamta, Nisha, Ginny, Pooja? Yes, Anu, Anila, Kishore. Is everyone convinced about the fact? Okay, Vignesh has confirmed. So, all right. So, I think everybody is convinced. So, whether you follow gross method where you show the asset at full value, this at the government grant as deferred income, and you release it in the P&L in the ratio of depreciation, or you net off the grant against the asset and show the asset at the net value and depreciate only the net value. Regardless of what you follow, the impact in the P&L is going to remain the same. The impact in the P&L is going to remain the same. All right. Now, what is preferred? What is preferred in your exam? The second one. You take your asset at 100 and do the accounting and give a note for the alternative. Give a note for the alternative. Are we okay with this? Yes. Are we okay with this? Yes or no? All right, fine. Now, coming to non-monetary asset. Acha. Non-monetary asset
Sir,
में
actually, I have a question regarding this.
बोलिए ना. Please tell.
सर अगर आफ्टर 2 or 3 years हम इस एसेट को सेल करेंगे मार्केट में तो मार्केट वैल्यू हमें 300 के अकॉर्डिंग मिलेगी और हमारे बुक्स के अकॉर्डिंग उसकी वैल्यू कम रहेगी तो हमारी बुक्स में प्रॉफिट शो होगा जबकि एक्चुअली में कोई प्रॉफिट है नहीं उस एसेट पे.
ओके फाइन. एक काम करते हैं. I will come back to your question when we are doing one of the RTP sums, because see, agar aap okay, so let me be a little what I can say, let me explain the process a little. Normally when government gives you a grant for an asset, you cannot sell it like any other asset that you own. Okay. So when you are having this asset which is owned by the which is funded by a government grant, you need to take approval from the government, because government also has put its money, right? So if you are going to sell it, then the government, what it will say, अगर आपने 2 साल बाद ये एसेट बेचने का डिसीजन ले लिया, if you decide to sell within 2 years, What will the government tell? The government will tell you pay me back my deferred grant first. Yes, you enjoyed my money, na? You had enjoyed this money for an asset for 5 years. But now you want to sell it after 2 years. So you please pay back the grant that I have given to you. Okay. So there are two components which will be attached here. You will be having a repayment of the government grant, and then you will have an asset sale. And on that asset sale, you will have a profit or loss. And additionally, you will have a profit or loss on repayment of the government grant. Okay. It won't be anything that happens just as you wish it to happen. Is it okay? Yes.
Yes, sir. Clear.
So we have a question. We have a question that has come in one of the RTPs where the grant is getting reimbursed or is getting repaid, not reimbursed. The grant is getting repaid. So we will see the treatment of the repayment of grant in that particular question. Okay. तब तक के लिए just you can wait for some time. Okay. All right. Coming now to non-monetary grant. Here, the government gives you the asset directly. It does not wait for, it does not tell you to buy the asset and then reimburse you. That is not happening. So in this case, asset is directly given. So now the question is, at what value should I recognize the asset? At what value should I recognize the asset? Yes.
Fair value, sir.
Fair value is one. Fair value is one, or alternatively, you can show it at a nominal value. You can show it at a nominal value. What is a nominal value? What is a nominal value? You just want to document the presence of that asset in your financial statements. आपको और कुछ नहीं करना है. You want to show that asset in your fixed asset register. So you record it at a nominal value. Nominal value means what? It could be 1 rupee, it could be 10 rupees, it could be 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, 10,000, 1 lakh, whatever it is. So when I talk about nominal value, it is essentially the lowest value at which an item's assets are independently recognized. Okay. Basically, जो rounding off रहता है, rounding off in millions, rounding off in thousands, rounding off in lakhs. So you show that as the value at which the asset is going to appear in your financials. Are we okay? So the entry will be PPE account debit to deferred government grant. This will be, if the nominal value is 1, I will show it as 1. If it is 10, it will be 10. If it is 100, it will be 100. So on and so forth. Are we okay with this? Yes, everyone? Yes? Sure? Yes, Jeannie, please tell.
So then how we will decide this nominal value? Anyone can
Anyone can show any value. Perfectly fine. That is your query, na?
yes, sir.
It doesn't really matter. What you have received is an asset. You want to show the existence of that asset in your financial statements. Suppose you are going to set up a land in a backward area and you need, say, 50 acres of land for the factory that you are planning to set up. Now, this 50 acres of land the government gives you. Government will tell, look, this is the land. You can set up your factory for a 99-year period. So you have received the land. So now the choice is whether I should go for a fair value accounting, whether I should go for a fair value accounting of that land, or should I go for a nominal value? Should I go for a nominal value? Okay. So here, non-monetary government grants, you can assess the fair value of the non-monetary asset and account for both grant and asset at that fair value. So if 50 acres, each acre is worth say 1 crore, hypothetical. So 50 acres into 1 crore, you will recognize the land at 50 crores and the grant at 50 crores. The land, if it is a leasehold land, typically you will end up amortizing it over a 99 or a 100-year tenure, whatever is there, and the income also will get amortized accordingly. So basically, you are just trying to capture the land in your financial statements. So then what the standard setter said, if at all your intention is to capture the asset, if the intention is to capture the asset, then why are we making our balance sheets heavy by showing 50 crore asset also, 50 crore liability also? You just show it as a nominal value. That is also perfectly fine. Nominal value can be 1 rupee, 10 rupees, 100,000, 10,000, whatever it is. Basically, you can use the benchmark figure as the rounding off that you take. Okay. And that is the figure at which you will show. So if you are presenting your financials in millions, then 1 million can be taken as the nominal value of the land. Now with this, what happens? With this, what happens? I'm not really concerned. I'm not really concerned because this is a government owned land that is just given to me for carrying out my activities. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. Okay. So therefore, you will recognize both asset and grant at a nominal amount. At a nominal amount. You can follow either of the two options. The standard does not say whichever is higher, whichever is lower. The standard gives you these two options. There is inconsistency, but you are permitted to do because ultimately it make a difference to you if you show it at fair value or at nominal value. Yes or no? So that is the reason this is the way the standard has been. Grants, that is grants linked to. So we pause to take a break at this stage. We'll take a 10-minute break. Is it okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay then. Thanks. See you after 10 minutes. हाँ जी. which covers your loan, asset related grant. So that will kind of bring a closure to the final closing points of the standard. Okay, because then nothing major would be left already. Okay, nice and interesting question. This was asked, this has been part of the May 2022 RTP question because it covers all the key matters that we are discussing in this standard. So please ensure your examination. Okay, 22 chemicals. During the manufacturing process, certain pollution of the rivers, the state installs certain pre-approved equal to 50% of the cost of the plant. So, what is screen visible?
50% of
So, loan to grant. So, this in days 20. In 5 years from the date of decision, the wastewater of its decision is treating the waste condition is violated. The loan shall the scheme is 50 lakhs. Okay. You don't have to
25.
25. If it were to obtain a similar, here you are getting at the government such that it became ready for use on the same date. So 1st April, two things are happening. You are getting the loan of 25 lakhs. You are recognizing government grant in relation to debt expense. Which method is it following? Or is it recognized as it is? Everyone following me? Did you follow? Perfect. Okay. Method. This water treatment plant, actually it cannot be. Hello.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा but screen नहीं दिख रहा हो percent.
10%.
What is the
Nil.
nil? Fair value discounted at the market value years is how much? 0, because this is interest free. So there is only one repayment that will happen, that is at the end of the 5th year of 25 lakhs. So that will be 25 lakhs into present value factor is equal to I'll do a slightly long calculation so that you don't get confused. Plus 12%. So this is equal to, I just did that, this will be 400. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody has confirmed. Anybody else confirmed? Okay. All right. Okay. So fair value of loan received is 14,17,500. So two. So the difference will be 10,82,500. The account. Are we okay with this? Is 10,82,500. Anybody has any doubts here? All clear. Okay. Fine. Vignesh, Usha, Anu, Pooja. Now. Accounting treatment for 20x1, x2. Cost of asset. Depreciation is 50 lakh by and amortization deferred income is equal to how much? Divided by 5. So 10,82,500 by 5 कितना होगा?
2,16,500.
Yes, 2,16,500. Are we okay with this? Yes. एक और चीज रह जाता है. One more thing is left. What is that? Can anybody tell me?
Loan amortization.
Yes, loan amortization. You will not pay anything, but the finance cost accrual has to be calculated. Okay, so finance cost accrual is equal to your loan value is 14,17,500 into 12%.
1,70,100.
1,70,000.
100.
Yes, rupees 1,70,100. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
So shall we post these entries? So journal entries. March 20x2. Depreciation account debit 10 lakhs to provision for depreciation. Alternatively, you can take it to property, plant and equipment. That is also fine. Okay. Next one is deferred grant income debit to P&L. 2 lakh कितना बताया था? 16,500. And finally, finance cost account debit to
Loan.
yes, that's right. 1,70,100. Is it okay, everyone? Yes.
So this finance cost will also go in P&L, na?
हाँ जी बिल्कुल. P&L. Okay. Finance cost P&L 70,100. Anybody has any doubts so far? Nisha? No doubt. Okay. Jeannie, clear beta?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Kishore, hope it's clear. DP, hope it's clear. All right. So let's move further. So closing balances. Property, plant, equipment. Deferred income 10,82,500 minus 2,16,500. $8,66,000 and then loan 14 lakh 17,500 plus 170 100. So 15
87,600.
87,600. Okay. So this is your closing balance. Now accounting treatment for X2, X3. Okay, so let's read the question. In the month of March X3, surprise audit was conducted, machinery was not used. So they have given an order on 31st March X3 to repay the loan and penalty, interest, etc. whatever is there. Okay, all right. So let us start. Let us start in the next year. Okay, first thing, will I have my depreciation? Bolo. Are they seizing the plant? Have they mentioned anything about seizing the plant?
No, sir.
No. So depreciation will continue. So first one is, we'll write the entries only. So depreciation debit to provision for depreciation 10 lakhs. Okay. Is charged. That means I can recognize one more year of deferred income. Yes, I can recognize one more year of income. So
Yes, sir.
that will come deferred grant income debit to P&L. 2,16,500. Am I okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And एक और साल मैंने loan use किया. I used the loan for one more year. So will the finance cost on that come?
Yes.
So what is the finance cost? ₹15 lakh 87,600 into 12%. 1,90,512. Are we okay with this?
Yes.
Yes. So now, at this point of time, if everything was normal, violation agar nahi hota, if I did not have a violation, then at this point of time, my closing balance is equal to 15,800. Closing balance is 1 minute. Loan 15,87,600 plus 190,512. Okay. 17,78,112. Am I okay?
Yes, sir.
Deferred income balance would be 8,66,000 minus 2,16,500.
649,500.
649,500. And last में property, plant, equipment is equal to
30 lakhs.
40 minus 30 lakhs. Yes. All right. And then it came to light that there is a violation. It then came to light that there is a violation. Abhi violation ho gaya. I was not using the plant for its intended purposes. So therefore, what has happened is the loan has become repayable immediately. Number one. Second is a penalty of 10 lakh also is payable. A penalty of 10 lakh also is payable. Are we okay with this? So now if I have to repay the loan, and it is paid is what they have given, right? A Limited repaid the loan and penalty as per the order on 31st March X3. Okay. So 31/3/20 X3. Okay. Now if I pay the loan, will I have any deferred income left? Should I be having any deferred grant income left with me?
No.
No, because you have not fulfilled the terms of the grant. The grant is effectively cancelled. The grant is effectively cancelled. तो जो आपके accounts में deferred income balance है, since the grant is effectively cancelled, whatever balance in the deferred grant income account is there, that should become zero. So first one is deferred grant income debit. How much that is? 6,49,500. This will go away? Yes or no? I'm talking about
Yes.
yes. Next. Will the loan remain or will that also be repaid? जो सरकार से लोन दिया था वो रहेगा या वो भी चला जाएगा? That will also be repaid. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So the loan account debit 17 lakh 78,112. 17 lakh 78,112. Are we okay?
Sir,
How much are you going to pay?
25 lakhs plus 10 lakhs penalty.
25. We'll take that 10 lakh separately. So loan repayment I will be doing of 25 lakhs. Am I okay?
Yes, sir. And balance from P&L.
So now what? Yes. So 25 lakhs minus 649,500 minus 17,78,112. So
78,388.
yes, 72,388. Where will this go? This will go to
P&L.
loss on repayment. Loss on repayment. Are we okay with this? Yes. Jeannie, did
Yes.
you follow beta? Yes.
Yes, sir. I have
Vignesh.
answered that box.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Perfect. Yeah. Nisha also confirm. Mamta ठीक है? Okay. Fine. Kishore, Hemant has been confirming. Okay. And then finally the penalty. P&L penalty debit 10 lakhs to bank 10 lakhs. Is it okay? Perfect. पूजा समझ में आ गया? She has confirmed. निशा
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, और Jeannie has confirmed. Okay, perfect. All perfect. Vignesh, hope you understood. Mamta also confirmed. ठीक है. So that is why this is a very, very critical question. So the moment your grant stands revoked, deferred income balance will go, any loan balance will go, difference will be adjusted in the profit and loss, and any penalties that you pay, that will also go to the profit and loss. Asset continues to remain with you, but because you are no longer using the asset, you have lost the monetary compensation which you had received. You will need to check whether the asset needs to be tested for impairment or not, because now the value of the asset is there which you are not using and for which you have already paid. You have already paid the loan that was there, the grant that you had. So very, very important question, this one. So now you will be in a position to you will be able, you are in a position to understand the entire standard now. Okay. All right. So now let us quickly run. So now there was one student who was inquiring illustration 5, the loan is to finance a depreciable asset. I hope now with these one or two examples, it's very clear. The loan is to finance a depreciable asset. How am I going to treat the grant? Is it okay? So illustration 5 is done. So now you will answer these questions without reading. Whether receipt basis of accounting is permissible. Whether receipt basis of accounting for a government grant is permissible. Bolo?
No, sir.
No, it has to go on accrual basis. It has to go on accrual basis because it is a violation of Ind AS 1 accruals. Okay. It would be is not in accordance with accrual accounting assumption, would be acceptable only if no basis existed for allocating a grant to a period other than the one in which it was received. Okay, so whether receipt basis permissible, answer is no. Grants related to non-depreciable assets. Grants related to non-depreciable assets may also require fulfillment of certain obligations. See, depreciable assets, how do I allocate the grant? Over the tenure of the asset. Non-depreciable asset, depreciation ho hi nahi raha hai, then you may also require fulfillment of certain obligations and would then be recognized in P&L over the periods that bear the cost of meeting these obligations. Is it okay? So that is grants related to non-depreciable asset. Conditional grant received for financial or fiscal aids. Identify conditions giving rise to cost and expenses, period over which the grant will be earned. Appropriate to allocate part of a grant on one basis and part on another. Okay, so that takes care of 2.5.3. Grant for expenses or losses already incurred or grant as an immediate financial support. I will recognize it in the P&L immediately. Okay. Non-monetary grants, we have seen already. We have seen this chart. Yes, you can go through this for homework. Yes, anybody has any doubts so far? No doubts? Just give me a minute. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. So now you can go through this illustration 6 for homework. It's very simple. Nominal value के हिसाब से we are recognizing the asset. Government assistance, no specific relation to operating activities. Like you may have certain assistance for business activities in certain regions or industry sectors. I am constantly telling carrying out activities in industrially backward areas. Conditions may not be specifically related to operating activities of the entity. Like for example, transfer of resources to entities which operate in a particular industry, continue operating in privatized industries, or start or continue to run the business in underdeveloped areas. Most common is the last one. Okay. Normally, we would prefer to have our factories in developed areas because one is security is there. I don't have to waste my money on security. I don't have to be in fear of when my workers will turn against the factory operators. Okay. So all those things, all those fears will definitely ensure that I will prefer to carry out my operations in developed areas. But then how will the undeveloped areas develop? So they are not my normal activities, but I will still set up my unit there. So now, do I treat these assistances as a government grant is a question. So this is in relation to an appendix. Appendix A states that the assistance given to these entities meets the definition of government grants in Ind AS 20, even if no specific conditions to the operating activities are given other than the requirement to operate, and therefore we will not credit directly to shareholders' interests, but instead we will recognize in the P&L on a systematic basis. See, in the earlier regime, there was an accounting standard AS 12. AS 12 permitted you to recognize certain government grants entirely in capital reserve and show no movement after the receipt of that. यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं है. Here, Ind AS is very clear in stating that government grants can never go to capital reserve. They have to be in the P&L. The only thing is, should it be recognized immediately or should it be deferred over the next couple of years is something that will be dependent on a case-to-case basis. Is it okay? All right. Presentation in the balance sheet, grants related to assets. I have discussed both of them. You can either set up the deferred income. We have seen this. Non-monetary grants at fair value to be presented in a similar manner. Alternatively, deduct the grant in arriving at the carrying amount of the asset. Deferred income recognized on a systematic basis over the useful life of the asset. Other method deducts grant. So therefore, you will have a reduced depreciation expense. I explained to you 30 rupees. 20 rupees, 10 rupees, 10 rupees depreciation or 20 rupees depreciation, whatever was the case, we saw that it ultimately turned out to be the same. Okay. So illustration 7, you can do this for homework. It's too simple. Okay. Disclosure in the statement of cash flows. Acha, now you tell me, my friends, suppose I have paid, I have invested 1 crore, out of which 30 lakhs has come from the government. मेरा अपना पैसा लगाया है 70 lakhs. So you tell me, in the cash flow, will I show 30 lakhs as receipt and 100 lakhs as payment? Or should I show 70 lakhs as payment towards acquisition of assets? What do you think?
Separate amounts.
You should show it separately. You should show it separately. No doubt about that. Because your asset is worth 100. Your asset is worth 100. You are getting a compensation of 30. So you are not paying 70. It is 100 minus 30. So both of them should be shown separately. So disclosure in the cash flows tells the same thing. Okay. Presentation is done irrespective of the fact that the grant is deducted or not from the related asset. You may follow whatever method you want to follow for the accounting of the grant. But cash flow presentation will be on a gross basis only. Net basis is not permitted. Okay. So you can take this for homework. presentation of grants related to income. Okay. Now here there are two manners or two schools of thought. First one tells us, see, this is basically deferred government grant. Okay. ये जो deferred government grant income है, I can either show it as a credit to the P&L and expenses are on gross basis, or I can net off the expenses against the grant income to show the net expense. Are you able to follow? Yes, are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
आप कौन सा प्रेफर करोगे? What are you going to prefer? Will you prefer showing the grant income as a credit and the expenses as a debit? Or will you show the grant income as netted off against the expenses and show a single figure?
Net basis.
Net basis. Any other answer? Separately. Nisha is saying separately. Ginny? पूजा ने तो जवाब दिया. ममता, आपको क्या लगता है?
Sir, we will show separately.
You will show separately. अच्छा, ठीक है. The standard permits both. Both methods are regarded as acceptable for presentation of grants related to income. First method, यानी कि showing it separately, of on a line to line basis. Income is separate, government का source है, payment is separate. So therefore both are not adjustable against each other. So I cannot net off income and expense items, number one. Second, separation of the grant from the expense facilitates comparison with other expenses not affected by the grant. So that is the first point. In the case of second method, where I net off, reasoning क्या है? Reasoning is that expenses जो मैंने incur किए थे, the expenses which I have incurred, I would not have incurred if grant would not be received. Grant mila, that is the reason you are incurring this spend, na? So ideally, netting off would be ideal. Okay, expenses might well not have been incurred if grant was not available, and thus presentation of expense without offsetting the grant may therefore be misleading. Are we okay to understand? Yes, are we okay? दोनों चल सकते हैं. Both of them are perfectly fine to be disclosed. Is there any doubts?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so this is done. Okay, now. Okay. Okay, we are almost done. Okay. A Limited, we'll just go through this illustration. A Limited received a government grant of 10 lakhs to defray. Defray means cash is provided to defray expenses for environmental protection. Expected environmental cost to be incurred is 3 lakh per annum for the next 5 years. How am I going to present? Two options. First one, I will credit 2 lakhs each year for 5 years. So 10 lakh divided by 5, 2 lakh per annum. And I will show 3 lakh per annum as the environmental cost. Or the second one is show as a deduction from expense. So expense is 3, income is 2. Each month I will show 1 lakh as the expense. Are we okay with this? Yes?
Yes, sir.
बोलो. Yes. कुछ नहीं है. ठीक है. Repayment of government grants, we have seen the question. An entity may have to repay if the conditions are not fulfilled. A government grant that becomes repayable should be accounted for as a change in accounting estimate and be treated in accordance with Ind AS 8 accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and errors. Repayment of a grant related to income. Repayment of a grant related to income. Following steps should be followed in repayment of a grant related to income. Repayment first against unamortized deferred credit recognized in respect of the grant. Unamortized deferred credit. Look at my question. Look at my question. Unamortized deferred credit is 6,49,500. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So first I am applying to that 6,49,000. Okay. Next one is, to the extent the repayment exceeds such deferred credit, or when no deferred credit exists, the repayment to be recognized immediately in the profit or loss. Are we okay with this? Yes. Bolo. To the
Yes, sir.
extent repayment exceeds deferred credit, you can see now here 25 lakh is exceeding deferred credit grant also, loan also. So where the difference went to the profit and loss account. 72,388 in our example. Okay. The repayment of a grant related to an asset should be recognized either by reducing the deferred income balance, by amount repayable, or by increasing the carrying amount of the asset. Okay, so fairly simple. Repayment of government grants. This one you can take it for homework. Yes, you can take it for homework. Disclosures. What am I going to disclose? Accounting policy adopted for government grants, method of presentation adopted, nature and extent of government grants, indication of other forms of government assistance from which the entity has directly benefited. At times, the significance of the benefit of government assistance may be such that disclosure of the nature, extent, and duration of assistance is necessary in order that the financials may not be misleading. And unfulfilled conditions and other contingencies attached to government assistance that has been recognized. Okay, so very simple disclosures. Extracts of financial statements. These differences between AS 12 and Ind AS 20. You can have a look. Yes. Anybody has any doubt so far? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Oh, no doubts. Okay. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, we have kind of, come to the end of the standard. ABC Limited has, okay, we just run through this one simple question. You only will tell me the answer. I don't even need to read the full question. Okay. ABC has received the following grants from the government of Delhi for its newly started pharmaceutical business. तो आप बोलते जाओ, हम यहीं पे लिखते जाएंगे. 20 lakhs received for immediate startup of business without any further condition. Where should I recognize it?
P&L immediately.
कहाँ
P&L
लिखा?
account.
P&L immediate. 50 lakh received for R&D of drugs required for the treatment of cardiovascular diseases with following conditions. Drugs to be available at 20% cheaper from current market price and quality prescribed by World Health Organization. Yes. So what are you going to do?
Over the period, we will recognize it.
Yes, over the period. So deferred income recognized over the period. Acha. This is the answer which is mentioned in the institute, which is perfectly correct. There could be an alternative opinion, though it's not very clear, but the point is drugs R&D. Have you guys studied Ind AS 38?
Yes, sir.
So Ind AS 38 research and development could give rise to an intangible asset. Okay, could give rise to an intangible asset. This could be remotely linked to that, but I am not going in that direction because we stick to the institute. Institute's answer is perfectly fine. There is no problem in this. But if any of you has this alternative thought, R&D hai, intangible asset banega, then at that point of time also you are going to recognize it as a research and development asset, and this will then be an asset linked grant. Is it okay? Yes.
Yes, sir.
ठीक All right. 2 acres of land, fair value 10 lakhs, received for setup of plant. So you can take this 2 acres of land, recognize it at fair value of 10 lakhs. Is it okay? Yes. And you present it in the grant showing it as a deferred income. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Grant as deferred income. 2 lakh received for purchase of machinery of 10 lakhs. Useful life of machinery 5 years. Depreciation on SLM basis. So what are we going to do with this? Two options. Either I will show my asset at 10 minus 2, 8 lakhs and depreciate 8 lakhs. Or I will take 2 lakh as deferred income, 10 lakh as asset value, depreciate asset 10 lakhs and 2 lakhs I will depreciate. I will take each year to the P&L credit. So ultimate net impact in the P&L is going to be the same. Is it okay? Yes. So fairly simple question. I hope there is no doubt on this. ठीक है?
Sir,
Anybody
as
has
you
any doubt?
mentioned, yes, sir.
बोलिए
Ask.
बोलिए
Sir, as you mentioned that in case of research and development, if it result into an intangible asset, in that case, if it relates to developmental phase, we can capitalize that expenditure in that intangible asset.
Absolutely right.
In that case, if that developmental phase related government and whatever that has been received, can I deduct that expense from that and net basis I can capitalize in that intangible asset?
जी बिल्कुल आप कर सकते हो. Yes,
Okay, sir.
absolutely right. Okay. Yes. So question number 1 is done. Question 2. A Limited received from the government a loan of 1 crore at 5% payable after 5 years in bulleted payment. Prevailing market rate of interest is 12%. Interest payable regularly at the end of each year. Can you do this? I don't even have to explain. Calculate amount of government grant. That will be the balancing figure. 1 crore into 5%. That means this will be 5 lakh per annum will be the payout. The discount rate will be 12%. So 5 lakh into present value annuity factor of 12% for 5 years plus 1 crore into present value factor of 12% at the end of 5th year will be the fair value of the loan. The difference between the fair value and 1 crore will be the deferred grant that we have recognized. Okay, so this is quite simple on that front. Okay. All right. Now the question is, okay, so this is something which is a question which is slightly important, not difficult. MNC has received grant in the nature of exemption of custom duty on capital goods with certain conditions related to export of goods under the EPCG scheme of Government of India. State whether the same is a government grant under Ind AS 20 and how do I account for it? Should I take it as a grant related to asset or a grant related to income? Tell me. Exemption of customs duty on capital goods.
Grant related to assets.
Grant related to assets. Grant related to assets. Yes, ideally import duties will be capitalized, but in this case you are getting an exemption of that capitalization, and therefore the immediate conclusion will be that this is going to be a capital grant related to an asset, and therefore we will do the netting off, and therefore we will do the netting off. Is it okay? Yes.
Yes,
But
sir.
if we, how many of you are remotely familiar with customs? मुझे भी ज्यादा नहीं आता है, but आप में से किसको थोड़ा बहुत नॉलेज है? Anybody who is aware of this? If you are not aware, it's fine. I mean, I'm not asking you anything. Okay. If you are not aware, it's fine. Okay. So what happens is the EPCG scheme is to promote export of goods from the capital assets that you are procuring. So what the government's intention is that you buy the capital goods. I am going to not charge import duty, not collect any import duty from you, but the output of the capital asset, जो product है, you will use that product to generate export proceeds for India. Are you able to understand the fine difference now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. तो पहले केस में हमने क्या कहा, इट्स अ कैपिटल ग्रांट बिकॉज हमारा इंपोर्ट कॉस्ट कम हो रहा है. दैट थॉट प्रोसेस इज राइट इफ एंड ओनली इफ the intention of the government is to encourage imports. But you think and tell me from an economic standpoint, is a government interested in encouraging imports or is it interested in encouraging export of goods?
Export.
If the intention of the government is encouraging export of the goods, certain goods have to be exported only if they are manufactured using a certain brand's capital goods. And that capital goods I have imported into India, on which the government has given me an import duty exemption. That capital goods I am using to manufacture products which I am ultimately exporting outside India. And therefore, what is the intention of government in giving this import duty exemption? Is it to really promote your imports or is it to promote exports? Since you guys said it is to promote exports, then will this grant be a capital grant or a grant related to operations?
Related to operation.
Then it will be a grant related to operations. And then आप उसको कहाँ दिखाओगे? You will show it
P&L.
as P&L. वो जाएगा deferred grant and from deferred grant we will amortize it into the profit and loss account. Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Ultimately, there is a very fine difference between whether it is to buy. Okay, now let us come to the next. Let me slightly add some spice to this. This plant is set up in a backward location. Is set up in an industrially backward area where the government wants to promote capital investment. Then what are you going to do?
Asset related grant we will treat it.
बट स्कीम के हिसाब से तो आपको एक्सपोर्ट भी प्रमोट करना है.
Then it will relate
Yes.
to the cost of operations.
So it is taking the color of both. On one side, we are promoting investment in a backward area for which the government is giving a support. You can treat it as an asset related grant. On the other side, the scheme's inherent nature is to promote exports. You can treat it as a operations related grant. Choice is yours. Only thing is you will have to look at the nature of the intention of the government behind giving that grant. Are we okay with this? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for setting this up in a backward area, primary intention is what is important to look. Okay. So there will be multiple cases where you will have such judgment calls to be taken. Judgment calls बहुत सारे आएंगे आपके पास. Okay, so at that point of time, you will just evaluate that and take a call. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
if in exam we give answer on basis of one angle only and no detailed answer we are giving in the second angle, will it be necessary to give both the explanation both way? Then only
मैं
we will
आपसे
get
एक सवाल
marks.
करता हूँ. मैं आपसे एक सवाल करता हूँ, इसका जवाब देना. आपके पास दोनों ऑप्शन सही है, आपने एक ही ऑप्शन दिया, दूसरा ऑप्शन नहीं दिया, तो आप तो नाउ सी लुक एट व्हाट इज इस एग्जाम के बाद आपका स्टेटस क्या होगा सोसाइटी में. विल यू बी अ स्टूडेंट और विल यू बी अ प्रोफेशनल?
Professional.
तो जब आप प्रोफेशनल होगे तो आप अपने क्लाइंट को दोनों ऑप्शन बताओगे ना,
Yes, sir.
whether it is a client or whether it is your boss or whether you are working in a consulting firm, the end point is आप तो सारे options बताओगे. It is the client who will take a call. So when you are giving your answers, you think that this is a real life situation. तो आप तो दोनों option दो ना. Don't give scope to the examiner to reduce your marks because you have not given one option. Scope ही मत दो. If you are absolutely sure that it is only one option that is there, then don't give the second option also. Then वो गलत हो जाएगा, right? But if two options are there, please mention both the options. Okay, you have to exhibit your knowledge in the best possible manner in your examination. See, the whole point is today I am seeing you, may not be face to face, but at least I am able to interact with you. But examination situation में, considering the inherent limitations, you are physically not interacting with the examiner. It is only your question paper. And question paper के, depending on the question paper, if the examiner has to judge your professional competence, the only way he can judge is by looking at what you have written in the answer sheet. So therefore, that is vital that you cover all the options in that. Okay, you can give one option in detail, there is no problem. If this is a sum, you can solve it based on capital grant approach, but you have to tell alternatively it can be treated as a non-capital grant, in which case it will be credited to deferred income and then charged and then released to the P&L in a systematic basis over the life of the asset. Computation mat dikhao, but at least express it so that examiner knows that you know it. Okay? Are we okay?
Yes, sir.
So this is 3. Okay. All right, fine. So I think you should be in a position to try the remaining questions. Question number 4, we will try it after we do Ind AS 101. That is first time adoption. Okay. I'm leaving you with homework for question number 5. This is all simple. Question 6. Question 7 also is simple. Okay. All right. Question 8. Okay, question 8. Let me just look at what is the solution, because 1 second. Okay, all right. Okay, I will run you through question 8. There is a small inconsistency in part B. Part A is right. Okay. Entity A is awarded a government grant of 60,000 receivable over 3 years. 40,000 in year 1, 10,000 in each of the years 2 and 3. Contingent on creating 10 new jobs and maintaining them for 3 years. These employees are recruited at a total cost of 30,000. This is the recruitment cost, not the salaries. The wage bill for year 1 is 1 lakh, rising by 10,000 in each of the subsequent years. Calculate the grant income and deferred income to be accounted for in the books for years 1, 2 and 3 under the following 2 situations. Situation A, there is a reasonable assurance that the entity will comply with the conditions and the grant will be received. Situation B, there is no reasonable assurance that the grant will be received. Okay. So first one, you have received a grant of how much? Grant value is how much? 60,000. Is it okay? Grant value is 60,000. Is this asset related or non-asset related?
Non-asset.
Non-asset related. So I will amortize it over a systematic basis. Should I take it equally over 3 years or should I take it in the proportion of the cost?
In the proportion of cost incurred.
Cost. So year 1, 2, 3, what is the cost I am incurring? First year, 1,30,000. Yes. Second year, 1,10,000. Third year, 1,20,000. हर साल recruitment cost नहीं होगा मेरा. Yes, every year there is no uh, uh, recruitment cost, but the wage bill keeps on increasing. So 1,30,000, 1,10,000, 1,20,000. This comes to how much? 3,60,000. Am I okay with this?
Yes, sir.
So 3,60,000, you are going to amortize 60,000 in the ratio of 13:11:12. Are we okay with this?
Yes.
समझ में आ गया? जीनी, डिड यू फॉलो? पूजा, आपके यस में थोड़ा सा डाउट था. Did you follow?
Yes, sir.
Sure? Okay, fine. Nisha, did you follow? Vignesh has followed. Nisha has also followed, I think. I think she has followed. Okay, fine. All right. So ideally 13, 11, 12. In this ratio, I will do the split. This is what Institute has done for part A. Okay, part A. Dekho, 3,60,000, 60,000 is amortized in this ratio. 60,000 into 13/36, 11/36, 12/36. So this is the allocation, grant income, and deferred income. This is the balance. So 60,000 minus 60 minus 21 gives you 38. 60 minus 18, and you are also going to get 10,000. So 20, and finally it becomes 0. So the P&L, you are recognizing 21, 18, and 20,000 respectively. Okay. Balance of deferred income at the end of each year is this much. Are we okay with this part, at least, everyone? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second case, reasonable assurance is not there. Reasonable assurance is not there. You have received a grant in year 1 of 40,000 rupees. Just zara dhyan se suno. Understand my argument. Then we will see the institute solution. Now, year 1 mein you got a grant of 40,000. Do you have reasonable assurance for year 2 and year 3?
No, sir.
Look at the question. We don't have reasonable assurance for year 2 and year 3. Okay? So, entity A is awarded a government grant of 60,000 receivable. So 40,000 in year 1 and 10,000 each. Now, one inconsistency in the language. Awarded, then how can I say no reasonable assurance? Awarded a grant, yani grant mil gaya usko. So the question that there is no reasonable assurance, thoda sa doubtful lagta hai, but theek hai. We continue with this inconsistency. That means what? First year ka grant mil gaya usko, 40,000. Years 2 and year 3 conditional grant, I am not sure I am going to fulfill that. So now my question to you is, over the 3 years, should I amortize 60,000 or should I amortize only 40,000 for part B? Yes. Bolo, everyone tell me. Part
What?
B, I got a grant of 60,000. But out of 60, 40 I got in the first year. 10,000 in second year, 10,000 in third year will depend on fulfilling the conditions. Today in year 1, I don't know whether I will fulfill the conditions in year 2 and year 3. तो जो amortization होगा income का, should it be based on 40,000 rupees or should it be based on 60,000 rupees for this case? Yes.
40,000.
40,000. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Should it be 40,000? Should it be? देखो, this is a grant for 3 years. ये 1 साल का grant नहीं है. So 40,000, I cannot book the income entirely in year 1. I will amortize it over 3 years. The question is, should I amortize 40,000 or should I amortize 60,000? In the first case, 60 is correct because I am reasonably sure I will fulfill the conditions. इन द सेकेंड केस मुझे सिर्फ पहले साल का गारंटी है, ईयर 2 एंड ईयर 3 के बारे में मेरे पास गारंटी नहीं है. आई डोंट हैव अ गारंटी ऑफ फुलफिलिंग दोस कंडीशंस इन ईयर 2 एंड ईयर 3. सर ईयर 1 गारंटी कैसे है? ईयर 1 गारंटी विल बी देयर ना, दैट इज व्हाई यू हैव बीन अवॉर्डेड द ग्रांट एंड रिसीव्ड 40,000. There is no doubt in year 1. Year 2 and year 3 is a question mark. So therefore, the allocation or the amortization of income, in my opinion, should be on the basis of 40,000 and not 60,000. Okay. These answers are okay, but only thing is it should be on the basis of 40,000. I am not sure. I am not sure. Is it okay? Yes. Any doubts? When you do the amortization on the basis of 40,000, answers will vary slightly, but ultimately that makes sense. This is what I think. What the institute has done is it has taken 60,000. It has gotten the grant income of 21, 18 and 20. Amount of grant that has not yet been credited to the statement of profit and loss is to be shown in the balance sheet. Hence, deferred income balance at the end of the year 1, 2 and 3 are 18,000, 10,000 and nil respectively. You can see here 38, 20 and 0. Here it is 18, 10 and 0. So the gap is 10,000 in years 1 and in years 2 and 3 because 10,000 grant आपको मिला नहीं. That is why there is a gap of 10,000 rupees. Okay. So my humble opinion 40 में होना चाहिए, but right now you can take this as your solution and progress. Okay. So with that, I think, yeah, we are done with the government grant chapter. Yes. I think we have covered all the details, all the cases, almost all the illustrations, all the important questions, certain RTP questions also we have done. Yeah, it's a very, very scoring topic. So don't mess around with such easy topics if they come in the exam. You may get as a standalone question or it may be clubbed with Ind AS 109, forgivable loans or, you know, interest-free loans or concessional rate of loans, etc. वो आ जाएगा. So you will again revisit this when you do Ind AS 109. So that time also you are going to revisit this. Okay. So any doubts or anything that you guys are having on this now? Yeah. Any doubts? No doubts? Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. All right. Okay, beta. Then see you guys. See you on 12th now. Okay. See you on 12th November. Okay. Have a good day. Have a happy weekend. Okay. Thanks everyone. Session over. Session over.